Sometimes in life, you will find yourself exhausted, not because of the work you do, not because of the struggles you face, but because you keep explaining yourself to people who will never understand you. You try to clarify your intentions, justify your actions, and defend your choices, yet the more you explain, the more they twist your words. That is when you must pause and realize you are not living to convince people, you are living to please Allah. When you stop explaining to every critic and start trusting Allah, you discover a peace that explanations will never bring. Human beings have limited knowledge, limited mercy, but a limited patience. But Allah knows what you hide, He knows what you feel, and He knows what you mean when the world misinterprets you. His understanding of you is perfect. His judgment of you is flawless. And His plan for you is far greater than what people assume about you. Chasing people's opinions will always leave a person restless, because the reality of life is that human beings are never consistent in how they see you. Today you may be praised for something you said or did. Tomorrow you may be criticized for the very same action. People's hearts and tongues are always shifting, and if you tie your peace of mind to their approval, you will never be at rest. It is like trying to hold water in your hands. The more you try to keep it, the more it slips away. Yet so many of us spend our lives explaining, justifying, and defending ourselves to those who may never truly understand us. We exhaust ourselves trying to win their approval, but at the end of the day, they cannot grant us paradise, nor can they protect us from the judgment of Allah. Imagine someone running after shadows on the ground. No matter how fast they run, no matter how hard they try, they will never be able to grasp what they are chasing. This is the reality of living for people's opinions. You may win one person's heart, but another will still find fault. You may spend hours clarifying your intentions, but someone will still doubt you. The question is it worth sacrificing your inner peace for something that will always be incomplete? The answer is no. True peace is found when you live for Allah's approval, because His acceptance is stable, lasting, and sufficient. When He is pleased with you, it does not matter how many people frown at you. And when He is displeased with you, no amount of praise from people will benefit you. Think of how often in life you feel pressured to explain yourself. You say something with sincerity, but someone misinterprets it. You act with good intentions, but someone questions your motives. Your silence is read as arrogance, your kindness is mistaken for weakness, your efforts are undervalued or ignored. If you try to fight every misunderstanding with explanations, you will never have time left for the things that truly matter. You will spend your energy convincing people instead of building your connection with Allah. You will become a prisoner to their opinions, never free, always restless. But when you make the conscious choice to say, I will stop explaining endlessly and I will place my trust in Allah, you discover a freedom that explanations will never give you. Your heart begins to rest because you realize that people see only the surface, while Allah sees the depths of your heart. People judge by appearance, but Allah knows the unseen. He knows your sincerity when no one else does. He knows the struggles you hide, and He knows the sacrifices you make that go unnoticed. And this realization is powerful. It shifts your focus from the crowd to the Creator, from the noise of people's judgments to the silence of Allah's perfect knowledge. Think about the lives of those who came before us, the prophets and righteous people. Did they not face constant criticism, slander, and rejection? They were accused of things they never did, mocked for their faith, and ridiculed for their choices. Yet they did not spend their lives trying to explain themselves to every critic. They conveyed the truth, they lived with sincerity, and when people misunderstood them, they turned to Allah with patience. Their silence was not cowardice, it was trust. Their lack of explanation was not ignorance, it was wisdom. They understood that the heart that trusts in Allah is stronger than any tongue that tries to discredit it. Silence is often misunderstood in our world. Many people see silence as weakness, as though keeping quiet means you have no answer. But silence can sometimes be the loudest response. Silence says, I do not need to lower myself into arguments because my case is with Allah. Silence says, I will not waste my energy trying to convince you because my energy is reserved for pleasing Allah. Silence says, you may misinterpret me, but Allah knows me, and that is enough. This silence is not emptiness. It is a powerful declaration of trust. When someone hurls an accusation at you, your first instinct may be to explain, to defend, to argue back. And sometimes explaining is necessary when it brings clarity, justice, or reconciliation. But when explanations become endless, when they drain your heart, when you see that no matter how much you speak, the other person is not willing to listen, then silence becomes the better choice. Because silence places your affairs in Allah's hands, while explanations may only tie you further to the hands of people. There are moments in life when the one who remains silent is actually the stronger one. Think of a stormy sea. The waves crash violently on the surface, loud and chaotic, but deep beneath the surface the water remains calm and still. That depth represents the heart of the believer who trusts in Allah. On the surface, critics may speak loudly, arguments may rage, accusations may spread, but within the believer remains at peace because his or her trust is rooted in something deeper. Explanations may silence a person for a moment, but trust in Allah silences the heart forever. Have you ever noticed how exhausting it feels to constantly clarify yourself? You say one thing and 10 people misunderstand, you correct it, and 5 more raise questions. You clarify further and still some choose not to believe you. In such moments, you need to remind yourself that you are not responsible for convincing everyone. You are only responsible for being sincere with Allah, for speaking the truth, and for leaving the rest in His hands. It is liberating to say, I do not need every person to be pleased with me, I only need Allah to be pleased with me. This is the kind of inner strength that turns misunderstandings into opportunities to grow closer to your Creator. And remember, there is hidden mercy in being misunderstood. When people misjudge you, it teaches you to detach from their praise. It forces you to realign your heart with the one whose understanding is perfect. It draws you away from the distractions of human opinion and closer to the sincerity of worship. Without those painful moments of being judged unfairly, perhaps your heart would have continued chasing approval from the wrong place. So even in the sting of false accusations, there is a gift, the gift of learning to rely solely on Allah. Think also of how much more peaceful your life becomes when you stop defending yourself to every person. You are no longer weighed down by what they think because you know that their words cannot change your destiny. Your sustenance is not in their hands. Your future is not in their control, and your reputation ultimately lies with Allah. He can elevate you even if the world tries to push you down, and He can protect you even if the world tries to harm you. So why exhaust yourself with endless explanations when the one who truly matters already knows? This does not mean you should never speak. There is wisdom in clarifying when it is necessary, in defending when justice requires it, in explaining when it brings goodness. But it means you must know when to stop. You must know when an explanation is helping and when it has become a burden. You must know when your words are falling on open hearts and when they are being twisted by closed minds. And at that point, you must have the courage to remain silent, trusting that Allah will take care of what you cannot. Imagine walking into a courtroom where the judge already knows the entire truth. Would you waste your energy defending yourself against every false witness? Or would you remain calm, knowing that the judge sees through every lie? This is how life works with Allah. He is the judge who knows your heart. He sees every intention, every struggle, every effort. His judgment is flawless. So when the people around you misunderstand or misinterpret, do not panic. Your case is with the judge who already knows the truth. The weight of people's opinions can crush you if you let it. But the peace of Allah's approval can lift you higher than you ever imagined. The choice is yours. Will you chase shadows or will you walk in the light of divine contentment? Will you explain endlessly to those who may never believe you? Or will you trust the one who already knows your sincerity? When you choose trust, you will notice something remarkable. The same words that once hurt you will lose their power. The same criticisms that once broke you will no longer touch you. The same accusations that once kept you awake at night will now roll off your shoulders. Because your heart will be anchored in something far stronger than human opinion. It will be anchored in the certainty that Allah knows you better than anyone else ever could. The moment a person decides to let go of people's judgments and chooses instead to place their affairs in the hands of Allah, they begin to taste a freedom that nothing else in this world can offer. This freedom is not about wealth or status or the absence of hardship. It is the kind of freedom that lives deep in the heart, a calmness that remains steady even when storms rage around you. It is the peace of knowing that no matter how loudly people speak about you, no matter how unfairly they treat you, the one who controls everything already knows the truth and is already taking care of you. That is when you realize how powerful trust in Allah really is. When you stop living to prove yourself to people, you stop carrying the chains of their opinions. Their praise no longer makes you arrogant, and their criticism no longer destroys you. You learn to measure yourself by a higher standard, the standard of sincerity before Allah. This shift liberates you. It allows you to walk through life with your head high, not because you are proud of yourself, but because you are proud to be a servant of Allah. Every decision you make becomes lighter because it is not weighed down by the endless fear of what will people think. Instead, your heart whispers, what will Allah think of me? And that question brings clarity in ways that explanations to people never could. Consider how many lives are ruined by the weight of people's opinions. A person may have a dream, a goal, or a passion that could bring goodness to the world, but they hold back because they are afraid of being criticized. Someone may want to repent, to change their life for the better, but they delay because they fear what others will say about their past. Another may want to choose a path of modesty, humility, or righteousness, but the fear of gossip paralyzes them. They are shackled by opinions, living as prisoners in invisible cages built by the voices of others. But when they break those chains and decide to live for Allah alone, suddenly the doors open. They no longer live in fear of whispers and rumors, because they have realized that none of those voices will matter on the day when only Allah's judgment will count. This is where trust in Allah transforms into freedom. The freedom to act with sincerity even when misunderstood, the freedom to repent even when mocked, the freedom to be kind even when kindness is taken advantage of, the freedom to continue walking on the right path even when the world laughs at you. Every step taken with trust in Allah is a step away from the prison of people's opinions and a step into the vastness of His mercy. But freedom does not mean that life becomes easy. You may still be hurt, still be judged, still be questioned. The difference is that you no longer carry the burden of explaining endlessly. You no longer feel the need to justify yourself to every voice. Instead, you carry yourself with dignity, knowing that your record is being written by angels, not by critics. You remain silent where silence is wise. You speak when speech brings goodness, and in all moments, you place your reliance on Allah. That reliance is the rope that keeps you steady when the winds of judgment blow around you. And sometimes, there is a hidden mercy in the moments when you are misunderstood or judged unfairly. Those moments, as painful as they are, have a way of pushing you closer to Allah. When people misinterpret your intentions, you are reminded that only Allah truly knows your heart. When people forget your kindness, you are reminded that only Allah records every act of goodness, even the ones unnoticed. When people accuse you of what you never did, you are reminded that only Allah's judgment matters and that His judgment is perfect. In this way, every misunderstanding becomes a subtle call to detach from creation and attach more deeply to the Creator. Being misjudged can feel like a wound. It stings, it lingers, it makes you want to defend yourself. But often that very wound heals you in ways you could not have imagined. It strips away your dependence on people's approval and forces you to find strength in the one who never misjudges you. In those moments of being hurt, your dua becomes more sincere, your prayers become more focused, and your heart becomes more humble. You cry out not to people, but to Allah. And in doing so, you rise to a level of closeness that you may never have reached if life had always gone smoothly. Think about how many times in history great people were misunderstood. The prophets themselves were ridiculed, accused, and judged unfairly, yet every word spoken against them only increased their patience and deepened their reliance on Allah. Their mission did not stop because of people's judgments. They did not waste their lives explaining themselves to every critic. Instead, they lived with sincerity, conveyed their message, and left their case with Allah. And in the end, it was Allah who honored them, not the people who once insulted them. This is a lesson for every believer. Being misunderstood is not a sign of failure, it is a test of patience. And every test is an opportunity to earn the pleasure of Allah. When you learn to see being misjudged as part of Allah's wisdom, you stop asking why me and start saying, this is a chance for me to prove my trust in Him. You begin to view every unfair word as a means of elevation. Instead of being broken by the criticism, you are built by it because it teaches you reliance. Instead of drowning in the opinions of others, you rise above them with the wings of faith. Every misinterpretation becomes a reminder that you were not created to explain yourself to creation. You were created to serve the Creator. And what could be more beautiful than knowing that every tear you shed because of false accusations is noticed by Allah? What could be more comforting than knowing that every moment you remain silent in dignity, resisting the urge to defend yourself unnecessarily, is recorded as an act of patience? What could be more powerful than realizing that every misunderstanding becomes a means for your sins to be forgiven and your rank to be raised? The hidden mercy in being misunderstood is that it pushes you to a place where Allah's approval becomes your greatest treasure. The human heart longs to be understood, but not every heart is capable of understanding yours. People may hear your words but never feel your pain. They may see your actions but never know your intentions. They may judge your choices without ever walking your journey. To expect perfect understanding from people is to expect the impossible. But to seek perfect understanding from Allah is to find peace. Because He knows the secrets you cannot put into words. He knows the struggles you cannot show on your face. He knows the sincerity you cannot explain to anyone else. His knowledge of you is complete and His mercy toward you is limitless. That is why trusting Him brings freedom and being misunderstood brings closeness. Life when the wisest thing you can do is step back and leave your case with Allah. You may find yourself surrounded by voices questioning your intentions, doubting your sincerity, or even spreading falsehood about you. Your heart burns to explain, to argue, yet you must remember that there is one who already knows your truth without a single word from your lips. He knows your pain before you cry. He knows your sincerity before you defend yourself, and He knows your struggles when the world only sees your mistakes. Placing your trust in Him is not weakness, it is strength of the highest order. When you entrust your case to Allah, you allow Him to defend you in ways far beyond your imagination. His defense is not bound by human limitations. He can turn hearts in your favor without you uttering a word. He can expose lies in ways no explanation could. He can elevate you at the very moment others try to push you down. And sometimes His defense comes not by changing the tongues of people, but by granting you a peace so deep that their words lose all power over you. This is the beauty of relying on Him. You do not need to fight every battle, because the one who created justice itself is on your side. Think of how much energy people waste in trying to justify themselves to those who do not even want to listen. They go into endless arguments, repeat the same clarifications, and still remain unheard. Yet when a person raises their hands and says, "Oh Allah, you know the truth, I leave it to you," they unlock a strength that arguments will never bring. Their heart becomes lighter, their mind becomes clearer, and their soul feels secure. Because deep inside, they know that Allah is the most just judge, the most powerful protector, and the most perfect defender. There is a story that repeats itself in countless lives. Someone is accused of something they never did. At first, they panic, they rush to explain, they spend sleepless nights crafting the perfect defense. But the more they explain, the less they are believed. Then, exhausted and broken, they finally surrender the matter to Allah. And soon enough, the truth comes out in ways they never planned. Justice is served without their effort, and they realize that Allah's plan was always greater than their own. These stories remind us that leaving your case with Allah is not abandoning justice. It is entrusting justice to the one who never fails. When you stop trying to win every argument and start trusting Allah instead, you also discover a calmness in the midst of chaos. Life will always be filled with noise. Gossip in families, criticism at work, unfair comments on social media, judgments from strangers. If you spend your life responding to every word, you will lose your peace. But if you anchor your heart in trust, you will rise above the noise. Their words may echo in the air, but your heart will not tremble, because your certainty in Allah drowns out their doubts. Picture a ship sailing through a storm. The waves crash, the wind howls, the rain pours. If the captain panics at every sound, the ship will never reach the shore. But if the captain remains steady, steering with trust and focus, the ship will glide through the storm. This is how life feels when you trust Allah. The storm of criticism and gossip may be loud, but your heart becomes the captain, steady in trust, guiding you forward until you reach the shore of peace. The beauty of trusting Allah in the midst of noise is that you begin to care less about how others perceive you and more about how Allah sees you. You begin to filter your decisions not through the lens of will they approve, but through the lens of will Allah be pleased. This shift transforms your life. Suddenly, acts of kindness are done sincerely without fear of being overlooked. Decisions are made boldly without fear of being misunderstood. Repentance is embraced wholeheartedly without fear of being mocked. Every step you take is lighter because it is taken with the weight of Allah's approval, not the burden of people's opinions. When critics surround you, remember that not all noise requires a response. Sometimes the most powerful response is silence coupled with trust. Because silence says, I refuse to be dragged into endless arguments, I know my worth with Allah. Trust says, I do not fear your judgments, because the one who judges perfectly is on my side. Together, silence and trust create a shield stronger than any explanation. They protect your dignity, preserve your energy, and keep your focus where it belongs on Allah. And let us not forget that often the noise of people is a test. It is easy to trust Allah when everyone supports you. The real test comes when voices rise against you, when the truth is hidden, when lies spread, and when silence feels heavy. It is in those moments that your trust is measured. Will you collapse under the weight of their words, or will you stand firm with Allah as your anchor? Will you spend your nights crafting explanations, or will you spend your nights in prayer seeking His help? Every moment of noise becomes a chance to prove the strength of your reliance. There is also wisdom in the fact that Allah allows the noise of critics to surround us, because through that noise we learn patience. Through that noise we discover humility. Through that noise we strengthen our connection with Him. Without the voices of doubt, perhaps we would never turn to Him with such sincerity. Without the sting of false accusations, perhaps we would never taste the sweetness of His justice. Without the pain of being misunderstood, perhaps we would never experience the healing of His closeness. So even in the loudest moments of criticism, there is hidden mercy if only we open our eyes to it. When you truly grasp the power of leaving your case with Allah, you start seeing critics as enemies and start seeing them as tools of growth. Their noise becomes background music in the symphony of your journey. Their words no longer break you. Their judgments no longer imprison you. They free you from caring about anything except Allah's gaze. This is the transformation that trust brings, turning wounds into wisdom, pain into patience, and noise into a reminder that Allah is enough. Think also of how short this life is. Today they speak about you. Tomorrow they will forget you, and soon both you and them will be standing before Allah. On that day, no explanation will be needed, no argument will be necessary, no noise will remain. The only thing that will matter is how much trust you placed in Him during your time in this world. So why waste your years chasing after the fleeting voices of people when you could be preparing for the eternal judgment of Allah? Leaving your case with Allah and trusting Him in the midst of noise is not always easy, but it is always worth it. It takes strength to hold your tongue when you want to defend yourself. It takes courage to walk away from arguments when you want to win. It takes faith to remain calm when your heart wants to scream. But every time you choose silence over unnecessary speech, every time you choose patience over retaliation, every time you choose trust over fear, you are building a fortress of faith within your heart. And that fortress will protect you not just from the noise of this world, but from the anxieties that could destroy your peace. Every moment you stop explaining yourself to people and start placing your trust in Allah, your faith grows stronger. It is easy to convince yourself that you must always clarify, always justify, always prove your sincerity to others. But when you step back and remember that Allah already knows your intentions, your heart becomes lighter. You begin to realize that true faith is not measured by how much you can convince people of your goodness, but by how deeply you can trust Allah with your heart. Choosing faith over justification is a sign of spiritual maturity because it shows that you value Allah's approval above all else. There is something remarkable that happens when you make this choice. The chains of people's judgments no longer hold you captive. Their whispers lose power over your mind. Their doubts no longer control your actions. You walk through life with quiet confidence because you know you are being guided by the one who sees every intention, hears every unspoken word, and understands every silent struggle. This confidence is not arrogance, it is humility wrapped in certainty. You no longer beg people to understand you, because you know that the one who matters most already does. Every time you refuse to justify yourself unnecessarily, you are telling your soul, I rely on Allah more than I rely on human acceptance. This is an act of worship in itself. It is like declaring with your silence that your trust lies beyond this world, that your strength comes from a place unseen. People may call you stubborn, aloof, or unresponsive, but in reality you are practicing the highest form of reliance. You are saying, my explanation is not to you, my explanation is before Allah. That mindset elevates you to a level where faith replaces fear and trust replaces insecurity. It is not easy, because the human heart longs for validation. It craves to be understood, to be accepted, to be loved. But if you build your faith on the fragile foundation of people's approval, it will crumble the moment they turn against you. On the other hand, if you build your faith on trust in Allah, it will stand firm no matter who doubts you. Choosing faith over justification requires discipline, but it rewards you with strength. It teaches you to stop running after shadows and start walking in the light of certainty. There are times when people will misunderstand your kindness, and you may feel the urge to explain yourself. They may mistake your patience for weakness, your silence for guilt, your humility for lack of confidence. Yet if you were to chase after every misunderstanding, your life would be consumed with endless explanations. Instead, when you trust Allah, You realize that being misunderstood by people is not the end of the world. What truly matters is being understood by Him. And when He knows your heart, no misunderstanding can harm your soul. True strength is not in defending yourself at every turn, but in remaining steadfast even when misrepresented. It is easy to lash out when accused. It is easy to argue when judged unfairly. But it takes immense strength to remain calm, to stay grounded, and to continue doing what is right without being distracted by the noise around you. That strength is born from trust. It grows every time you remind yourself that Allah's knowledge is perfect, His justice is flawless, and His support is enough. A heart that relies on Allah is not easily shaken. It is like a mountain rooted deep into the earth. The winds may blow, the storms may rage, but the mountain stands unmoved. Similarly, critics may speak, doubts may spread, accusations may circulate, but the heart that trusts Allah remains firm. It does not sway with every opinion, nor does it crumble under pressure. It finds its stability in the certainty that Allah is sufficient as a protector, sufficient as a judge, and sufficient as a witness. When your strength comes from Allah, you stop fearing the weakness of people. You stop fearing their plots, their plans, and their judgments. You walk through life with resilience because you know that no one can harm you unless Allah wills, and no one can block your blessings when He decrees them. This strength gives you the courage to face life's challenges without being paralyzed by fear of what others may say. It gives you the confidence to make choices for the sake of Allah, even if people mock you for them. It gives you the patience to endure trials, knowing that every tear is counted, every struggle is recorded, and every moment of reliance is rewarded. Think about how many times in history the greatest figures were misunderstood. They were accused of things they never did, blamed for things they never said, judged for decisions guided by wisdom that others could not comprehend. Yet their strength lay in their reliance. They did not collapse under the weight of false accusations. They did not abandon their mission because of criticism. Instead, they placed their trust in Allah, and He carried them through storms that would have destroyed others. Their legacy is a reminder that true strength is not in winning arguments, but in winning the pleasure of Allah through patience and trust. The heart that relies on Allah finds comfort in knowing that every difficulty is temporary, every injustice is seen, and every secret is known. It does not panic when misunderstood because it knows that truth always finds a way to shine. It does not despair when wrong because it knows that Allah's justice will prevail in His perfect timing. This heart walks through life with serenity because it carries the greatest shield of all, certainty in Allah's care. When you cultivate this strength, you also inspire those around you. People may wonder how you remain calm in the face of criticism, how you continue smiling despite being misjudged, how you keep going when others would have given up. They may not see the source of your strength, but they will feel its impact. And perhaps through your reliance, they too will learn to place their trust in Allah. This is how reliance becomes contagious. It spreads peace, confidence, and hope wherever it is practiced sincerely. There is also a sweetness in relying on Allah that cannot be described, only tasted. It is the sweetness of knowing that you are never truly alone, no matter how isolated you feel. It is the sweetness of finding peace in prayer when the world feels chaotic. It is the sweetness of hearing criticism yet sleeping peacefully because your heart whispers, Allah knows. It is the sweetness of enduring trials with patience, knowing that each moment of reliance brings you closer to your Lord. This sweetness transforms hardships into opportunities and pain into prayers. So each time you are faced with the choice to explain yourself to people or to trust Allah, remember that faith is built in those moments. Each time you are tempted to defend your sincerity to those who doubt you, remind yourself that the one who truly matters already knows. Each time you feel the weight of people's judgment pressing down on you, lift your heart with the reminder that Allah's approval outweighs them all. Every choice to rely on Him is an investment in your strength, an elevation of your faith, and a step closer to peace. True strength does not come from proving yourself to others. It comes from proving your trust in Allah. And when you reach that point, no amount of misunderstanding can break you, no amount of noise can distract you, and no amount of criticism can lower you. Because your heart will be anchored in a truth far greater than people's opinions, that Allah is enough for you,